Happy New Year. Good evening to folks who are here and from outside in other parts of the world. If it's morning, good morning. And really excited to have our first interactive CISO roundtable of the year. And today I went and counted. Every time I think we have done only 30, and I realized this is the 39th one.
Nice.
And
Cool.
that's a good number. 9 plus 3 is 12. 12 is 1 plus 2 is 3, which is a Nicola's lucky number, as they say. I don't know if you know that Nikola Tesla's lucky numbers were 3, 6, or 9. Anyway, I won't
Mm.
go into that. But it's a lucky number for us, and we have all the lucky folks here. So with that luck, we'll get going with the luckiest year of this year. So as we have three experts today, and as we bring every month, we've been hosting it almost every month, and the CISO Roundtable, and bring two CISOs and CIOs, as well as one from the technology side, who've been in the industry, to talk about what's happening in the world of CISOs in general in the security area. So with that, we have today Teza Mukkavilli, who is a veteran CIO and CISO at a very fast-growing company called Tekion. And before that, Teza was at ChargePoint and many other companies, eBay, PayPal. So Teza, you're on mute. Would you like to a little bit elaborate on your background? I think many
Yeah,
folks know you
absolutely.
already.
My
I think so. I'll ask my marketing team, my world-class global marketing team
They're
here.
like 5 stars on a card.
Yeah.
I get a free Starbucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, very glad to be here. Very interesting topic. I think we talk so much about AI, and so look forward to this conversation.
Thank you, Teja. Appreciate it. And now we have Mike Machado. Mike is also a he's been a veteran of our CISO roundtables as well as participants also, because we make it interactive, by the way. So a lot of folks who are here, we would want to make sure you also engage. So Mike has been in the world of CISOs for a long time. I would rather have Mike talk. He just talk about himself right now. He's a SVP and CISO at a company called Hyland.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's always fun to be here. Uh, I think several of you know me already, but I'm a CISO. I do security stuff, focusing mostly on tech companies. I've been doing that for a long time. Our job as CISOs now includes lots of work related to supporting, enabling, and defending AI. And it's an exciting time, I think, for us and for the technology industry.
Over
Thank you,
25
Mike.
years just in security alone, Mike.
I know, but I don't, that's
You
just
don't
not a
you
number
don't
I
look it.
advertise anymore.
You don't
You
look
don't
it. You're
remember.
not stressed enough, Mike.
Oh,
You don't have enough gray hairs yet.
they're all on the inside. They're all on the inside.
You don't want to remind him of his biological age.
My wife just the other day was doing something. She saw my hair and she's like, "Oh, you're getting a few more." And I'm like, Don't even finish that sentence. Just don't even finish it."
All right. And then we have Abnesh, Raina. Abnesh is co-founder and chairman of a company called Ingenia. I mean, I'll let him define, but it's kind of consists of 8 or 9 companies. But he's been in the world of, he was senior VP and CIO, as well as after that last 10 plus years, he's been an entrepreneur at Restoration Hardware. So Abnesh, and also he's got all the degrees from a couple of Ivy League schools, also from Columbia, MBA, as well as Harvard, what is it, MBA?
Yeah,
All
Naveen,
right,
you,
Abnesh.
you used a pretty loaded term earlier called experts. I think we're all learning here,
I'm
right?
not gonna put that jacket on.
So, yeah. So, basically, I'm a tech and AI transformation executive. So I sit on the sort of a different side of the table than the CISO. I've been, as Naveen said, CIO at two publicly traded companies. And somewhere in, my wife calls it a midlife crisis. Somewhere along the way, I decided to do a VC-backed startup, and
Nice.
But essentially, I've led digital transformations in heavily regulated industries across like 80, 90 plus countries with the companies like Boeing and stuff during periods of transformation. Lately, though, I've been more focused on responsible AI, AI policy, and governance. And as Naveen, as I said, currently I'm focused on three verticals with our AI venture studio. One is data and AI. That's what we got started with. Then we have Agentic AI. We have three companies doing that. And then Web3. But what we do is a slightly different than traditional venture studios. Rather than incubate companies ourselves, we partner with existing companies that already have a market presence. And we have companies that are raw startups, and we have partners who are doing $1 billion in revenue. And through those companies that already have a market presence, and through those, we jointly identify opportunities and we sort of bring solutions to market. So that's sort of
All right.
hopefully provide some quick background.
Okay, thank you, Abnesh. So let's just take advantage of the time from folks here. A lot of folks with lots of good background, including of course with our panelists. So first is let's just talk about first theme of more of experimentation part of to enterprise reality for agentic AI. So some obviously you hear lots of stories where agentic AI still is kind of a lot of experimental stage and some for and number of case studies I guess you read where it's moving fast from pilots to production. So if I mean any of you whoever wants to take a stab at it, Teza, Mike, or Abnesh, what's what's the first thing you feel which has surprised you when this autonomy, which is a new word now coming into place, entered the picture? So, Teza, you want to start or?
Teja,
Where to begin?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I'm at least what I have noticed is a lot of teams are jumping into experimentation, and everybody wants to showcase a demo of what they have done, but not a whole lot are production ready, right? That's where, and this is something I've also heard from some of the, I was talking to one of the leaders at a FANG company recently, and they're like, "Hey, we did a AI demo day, and we had 200 different projects. Everybody wants to showcase what they're doing from an experimentation standpoint, but when it comes to is it production grade, is it ready? I don't think that's there yet, right? There's still that barrier. So we live through the same thing where we have to introduce those guardrails and make sure that it doesn't become fully utilized before we can put in the right checks and balances in place. So that's what at least we're trying to create that in our organization is, you can build what you want, but how do you restrict what kind of data that you get access to? There's also this whole, the tools have become really smart, like where it creates synthetic data to almost look very similar to what the real data looks like too. So you are like also um, take those scenarios into consideration.
Yeah, thank you, Teja. Mike, I mean, I know your company has been around for a long time, pretty big. So I'm sure you guys are experimenting also with a lot of these or maybe using it. So would love to
Experimenting,
hear.
building, right? I mean, it's one of the core features of some of our products. I think there's a lot about AI in the security realm that's not new, and then a few things that are new or surprising to your point, right? Like a lot of things are not surprising. Um, the marketing hype exceeds the real world delivery, right? In most cases, which is like it was for everything, right? Um, there's an adoption curve. Early stage adopters, mid stage adopters, there's going to be late stage adopters. We're still, I think, in pretty early stages, right? Not surprising either. The pace of innovation of AI, like any other technology wave that came before, exceeds the tools available for governing, deploying, managing, securing, all of these things, right? Um, uh, there's sanctioned and unsanctioned use of AI, right? none of that's new. Uh, in my observation, some of the things that are new is that or maybe surprising. I wouldn't say new. Let's just say surprising is the ability of agentic AI to um, uh, I'm just going to call it partially think, right? If we're going with the marketing term, it just thinks. I don't think it's quite there yet, but the ability for it to derive uh, outputs, inputs to work in parallel, like a multi-agent type implementation. All of this is a bit surprising to me. I think it's pretty impressive, and I think that's pretty cool. Another thing that I find surprising personally is uh, the opposite in many respects of what the fear was, right? So the fear is like, oh my God, we don't need humans anymore. Or maybe the fear not was, maybe the fear is, oh my God, we don't need humans anymore. Um, but uh, I find that we need uh, expertise more than ever before, right? Because the output of AI, whether it's an autonomous or a semi-autonomous process, or something that gets created, like like text or document or whatever, um, requires a pretty strong bullshit detector to gauge where the AI is saying something that you don't want to sign off on, right? As the human using this. That caught me a bit by surprise. The need for more, not less expertise in all of the domains where we're applying AI use cases.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Abnesh?
Yeah, I'll add to what Mike just said. I think some of us, Naveen, are not that young anymore. We've been through a few technology inflection points, right? With
Are you
e-commerce.
talking about my gray hair again?
I'm talking about Naveen and me. So
Oh, no, 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 you don't. I think you forgot that, I just started my career.
yeah, I've known Naveen for a long time. So
Bean's a first-time founder.
Yeah, exactly.
yep, that's
I'm
true.
learning the ropes and getting my ass kicked.
Yep.
Okay. All
So,
right.
and I think as Mike was saying, what's different about agentic AI that it's not just acting on behalf of the enterprise, because whenever a technology starts acting on behalf of an enterprise, governance stops being optional. It becomes mandatory. But what's different about agentic AI, I think, in addition to that, I think it's also delegation of action. So we work with a lot of companies. Most companies, they're not tech companies. They are traditional sort of companies, whether it's in aerospace or some other sort of domain. But now that agentic AI is not only informing decisions, it's starting to make them, and in certain cases, even execute them. It's forcing these executive teams to answer questions. And some of them are as rudimentary as I won't name the companies, but this is a large publicly traded company where one of the executives reporting to the CEO uploaded the board materials before the board meeting to an LLM asking for an, you think it's an exception, and it's happening more than we think. We think it's common sense, but people are still adapting to that, right? But essentially it's forcing us to answer a very old question one more time, which is what decisions are we willing to delegate and under what conditions, right? So, and that to me not only changes the security posture, but also governance and more importantly, the leadership question. So, to me, governance and both governance security is not just a sort of a compliance issue, it becomes more of a leadership question, right? And I believe because of that, there are going to be some changes coming, and we'll cover those in the next sort of. I know you have the sort of the agenda later on, but the maturity curve that we see from folks who are at the top of the game, they know what they do, right, in their domain. Even within that, the maturity, very smart people, the maturity curve, even between them, of people who are uploading confidential documents to people who have a lot more maturity, I'm surprised by looking at that difference in that sort of spectrum.
Yeah, I don't know, Abnesh, if you saw the CISA director, there were reports yesterday that the
Yes.
CISA director uploaded like confidential stuff to like a public GPT to yeah, it's spot on, yeah, what you're saying.
That's because the CIO didn't allow for him to have ChatGPT license right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
CIO's fault.
Yeah.
Good.
Right. Anyone from the audience? Let me just do a sequel to this question, and then from the audience, we'll just go to the audience also. So, what do you see? I mean, among you're very insightful. All three of you, Mike, Teza, and Abnesh. So, where do you see the biggest disconnect between how leadership thinks agentic AI works and how it actually behaves in the real systems? If you can a little bit elaborate on that, meaning, like question is how dangerous is that gap in decision-making environments, or who owns fixing that misunderstanding, kind of around that area, if you can elaborate a bit.
Yeah, I'll take it. I don't think it's a one size fits all answer, but I'll maybe share a few themes, right? Because in my opinion and based on what I've seen, it has to do with the level of familiarity with the technology. It's less like you phrased the question in the form of a role, like, leaders, but I think it's more a degree of familiarity regardless of the level in a company, right? So I think there's when one has less experience, uh, it's assumed to be more perfect, right, than what we realize when we have more experience. Um, and uh, then another thing that I observe is that it's almost like learning a new language, uh, in how we use these tools, right? It's like uh, a partnership, and you've got to learn how to get the best from your technology partner, right? The best from AI, and that requires some skill development, right, and some experience. Um, and then I think that there's this mystery that comes off, right? Mystery that goes away the more familiar you are and the more you use it, right? The idea that perhaps an agent can do so many things when in reality, a better agent is going to be like a very precise, honed digital worker that does one narrower thing, uh, in an excellent way. And then it will need either a human or digital partner to extend that one thing to another part of a work stream and maybe a third part of a work stream and so on, right? So you get these communities of digital workers and human workers, which I think becomes apparent the more agentic technology we adopt, and it's not obvious going into it. Those are my observations.
Yeah, I could go next. What I'm seeing is there's definitely, from a leadership, from board standpoint, there's a lot of push to bring in AI, right? Like introduce AI. On the flip side, what's happening is there is in a traditional system you have this whole design thinking, product design. How does your consumer consume these products that you're putting out there. But all I see sometimes the balance of what the product and how it's going to be consumed by your end user is kind of lost in that translation, right? Is you want to have something out there, whether it is as simple as asking for statuses or things like that. But again, that is kind of it's old school, but then baked into this whole cover called AI, right? And then even when you get into this framework of AI thinking or AI product suites or AI based governance, you still need to have foundationally the tenants, right? You have to sit and closely monitor how these AI tools have been used, what kind of hallucination, memory poisoning, those kind of risks exist, which are not always, the outcomes that you're expecting resonate with what you originally thought. That so there's definitely that curve that you would have to like manage with your stakeholders. So broadly, I see that reality is still missing to a large extent.
Yeah, and I can add to that. I think on our end, what we are seeing is pretty much every company we are partnering with or even talking to, some or the other agentic AI company has already pitched to them, hey, here's an AI agent we can do for you, right? Um, and what we see is there is still lack of, I would say, institutional knowledge on how to even evaluate this. So basic questions like role-based access. So then should an intern in HR have access, even if they have access to agents, should have access to the same data that the head of HR should have, right? Finance the same way. So they're still working through that. What I am also seeing is in certain cases, again, this is not broad industry. These are just the sample size is probably two companies, but these are very recent from last week. So they're top of mind is where the CFO and the legal team, they're coming together and creating, here's a policy on AI. I'm like, did you talk to someone who knows AI? No, this is what we think we should do as an organization. So there, I think they're still learning. And when you start asking them the right questions, sometimes they are open to it. Sometimes they are, oh, what we've got is good enough. We just need to use an LLM, right? And we need to have our own LLM. There are several companies providing that solution. So that's where I'm sort of seeing even, I think the mindset of the CFOs and the legal teams that they can do this in a vacuum without involving CISOs and CIOs. And as I said, the sample size is not that big. Maybe other companies are being different, but I'm seeing this too.
If I may add more, I'm Randy Barr, I'm CISO for several companies, advisor to a few as well. You know, when I look at AI, I look at it, how has it changed the security program? And it reminded me of that because of the chat message, how do you assess your risk? And I think a lot of companies had to change their risk tolerance with the adoption or the drive to adopt more AI. And so what's interesting about that is that when we look at how we adopt it internally, a lot of people want to play around with it. And then you start to see a list of many different things that are going on in your environment. So how do you track that? How do you ensure that you have the right asset inventory of all of those going ons in the environment, whether there's tools that can consolidate all of that effort into one area for better visibility? What I'm hearing from other CISOs and also from other companies that I advise is that now the privacy team, the legal team are getting a lot more involved. And I'm starting to see some of them getting involved way before the security team as well. And that's because of the data. The data is a concern. Larger enterprise companies, global companies have to deal with how do you process that data and does it remain within geos? One last thing before I close out. The interesting part is also the whole conversation of AI, AI agents, agentic AI. A lot of people blend them into one when I believe those are two separate things. AI agent handles a task. Agentic AI is more of an orchestration. A little bit more to that, but that's in simple terms that I can put it. And we actually put that in a book that I help contribute, which is Agentic AI for Dummies. So if you guys know of anybody that's interested in the book, let me know. I'm happy to send the link over.
Yeah, and Randall,
I'm not
add
smart
to add to
understand.
that. Sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry, please go.
Now, I was just going to add to that. We see legal teams getting involved too. I think the core question that we ask them to as they go through this AI policy sort of debate and discussion is when an AI agent makes a bad decision, the question isn't about which model failed. It's like who's responsible, both operationally and legally. Is it someone who trained the model? Is it someone internal who approved the delegation of that decision? Is it the third party that's providing the tech? So they're trying to figure out who is sort of responsible, where does the liability lie, both operationally as well as legally.
And transparency of that information is very important in order for you to help support the contractual obligations you have with your customers. I agree, 100%.
Thank you, Randy.
I think it's
Just wanted,
clear that
yeah,
the
go ahead, Mike.
liability rests with the company, right? That's at least what recent cases are looking like the trend is. But it's all data sharing, right? Like no AI works without data. So fundamentally, when you get down to it, your relationship between organizations is going to anchor strongly on, what are you willing to share, who are you willing to share it with, what obligations do you have with them, what flow down obligations do you have to uh, pass on to others, and so on. That's all an essential orchestration part of at the business level of this technology.
Thank you, Mike. I just wanted to invite, and I know there are a number of folks here who are working on these AI-based solutions, founders who've been in companies. So if anyone wants to have a question or want to provide an insight into this area, please just introduce yourself, 2 lines, and then the question or insight. So I will start off. Manish, I know you've started from your wonderful days at Zscaler to now your own startup right now. So what are your thoughts in this topic?
Thanks, Naveen. Hey, everyone. This is my second CISO Roundtable Summit. I'm the founder of Ferrington. We are providing a control plane for enterprise AI, and we're building it based on zero trust. So the same zero trust which allowed access to things, systems, and users, we're bringing those same constraints to AI entities such as LLMs and tools such as MCPs. Um, so I just shared a blog by Scale AI in security person a few days back, and he speaks about LLMs being something which respond to events. So if they hallucinate and you get an answer back in your chat GPT, no big deal, right? But as the CISA person who uploads a confidential document, that becomes a problem. So the model surface becomes an important problem. Multimodality is very difficult. People can now shove in information into images, videos, and send it off to ChatGPT. It could be a way of exfiltrating data, and you don't know the training profile of these companies, so that's a problem. But the most important thing is agentic as well as AI agents. Once you start working with tools, it becomes very dangerous. And that's where you really need the zero trust to kind of tether down exactly what these companies can do, what data they can access, and what tools they can invoke. So that's for that you need the zero trust approach. And the previous generation, and I worked at Zscaler and Okta, was based on a passport-based approach where you as a user had access to certain things, single sign-on to so many apps. You're now moving from the passport style into an itinerary style, where as the agent progresses, as the intent drifts, as there's a multi-turn conversation, what you can access may increase. So we're moving into that world, which is a little more dynamic. You might have heard of this week, the hottest news of the week was Claude, which is now called Molt. It is one of the most powerful personal assistants. It can use the browser and do all the things on your behalf. It can use APIs, it can use command line interfaces. I think to govern, you need a control plane to say exactly what needs access to this. And that's where companies like us are providing value and enforcing the lanes in which they can operate.
Yeah, thank you, Manish. Anyone else wants to? I think there is a K. I don't know what that stands for. Has questions here. So K, can you introduce yourself, 2 lines, and ask your questions?
Yeah, I was being shy because I not only have white hair, I have no hair.
Oh, Mr. Kamalanand. Okay,
Naveen at least has some black hair, so it's a good.
Since I'm the first-time founder.
What? Yeah, all of us
Anyway,
are
that's
first-time founders. I think it's an interesting topic, and definitely we see. So I'm sort of president of a startup called Trustwise. We are building the enterprise trust layer for agentic and Gen AI. But I do see that even very large organizations, financial banks, etc., don't even know how to classify risk currently of these agentic systems. There are no sort of frameworks available in the industry, common frameworks. So how do you classify risk, and then you can manage the policies and controls? So I think those are things that are happening and need to happen. And as many of you have said, right now it is becoming actions, and agents are taking action on your behalf, and it's non-deterministic. So very important to have that control plane and trust layer in the enterprise to control all these actions, auditability, etc. I think we are at an early stage of the company. Everybody's learned, or this industry or this particular market segment. So all of us are learning. As startups, we are trying to solve problems. As enterprises, people are trying to contain. I think a lot of focus today was really on people uploading things to ChatGPT. I think that potentially you can solve at various levels with SASE products at the edge and things like that, just like in the cloud GASB market that evolved. But really, how do you control the behavior of the agent? So at TrustWise, we are really focused on more, like my CEO likes to say, you can build the best prison walls, but if there is a Hannibal Lecter inside, that is creating chaos, that is still going to create chaos in your enterprise. So I think with the agentic applications, the behavior of the agents and controlling and assessing the behavior and keeping them within their lanes of what they're supposed to be doing and the policies, it becomes even more important. So I think that journey all of us will have to go through as effectively it's becoming the second workforce in the next few years.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Claude
let
just
me.
published their constitution last week, I believe. For what we have today, they did a pretty decent job along the same lines that you were talking about.
Who published, sorry?
Claude,
Yeah, Claude, yeah.
right? So their whole constitution is focused around emphasis on judgment for LLMs over rigid rules, right? They focus a lot on honesty and non-manipulation, avoid lying, for example, avoid manipulation. Then obviously there's hard avoidance around not doing strictly forbidden, like weapons of mass destruction and other stuff. But it's also stuff like do not resist human oversight. So they're looking at longer term too. So I thought they had given some, it was pretty thoughtful, at least what they've done for what we know today.
Thank you, Abnesh. So let me just move on to the next, which is a sequel to this, which is more of theme is around redefining the CISO and CIO mandate as you move forward. In fact, I don't know if you guys, if any of you saw that at this the recent what is that World Economic Forum at Davos, George Kurtz was being interviewed, the CrowdStrike's CEO, and one very interesting use case he brought out was, which is what the next question is. Basically the question is, as these AI systems start making decisions independently, so how does the accountability shift and who ultimately owns the outcome when something goes wrong? So he was talking about one use case. He said there were one company, IT department built these let's call it 96 agents, he was telling, and one agent went and did something, and agent himself didn't have the access to something to get the information. So he just bypassed around. He goes into the Slack or their channel to start talking to other 95 agents and says, hey, how do we get to this one? So it's like they are becoming smart enough to say, okay, they know everything and they will take the decision and they start doing that. So what he was trying to point out was this is becoming very dangerous, and obviously he feels like this is a great business for him because he's going to be putting all these guardrails and keep selling his software for these agents. So it's the same thing here. So that kind of leads to the question of, do you think, is it like when you find that kind of a situation, if it starts occurring, is this still a CISO problem, or does it move up to the board and executive layer or management, or and also obviously the how do you change how you partner with engineering, data, or AI teams because of all these agents start getting deployed? So, Teza, do you want to start off, or you're on mute?
Apologies. Yeah, absolutely. I think I heard the interview, Naveen, that you're talking about. The whole problem is, earlier in our traditional world, we would say, hey, this is our third party, and I want to know third parties, which is our fourth parties. But now I have an in-house agent who talks to an agent that is with my third party who probably has a host of agents that they talk to. But how do we control the outcome? And the outcome may a lot of times not happen on in your boundary. It may happen on a site to deliver this outcome for your customer, right? So um, I think at the end of the day, board is going to provide oversight, but the technical responsibility and the charter will come down to the CIOs and the CISOs to mandate and build this out. But I think mostly, one thing that I continue to worry about from a CISO lens is every vendor out there is pitching an AI feature, right? There is, like, if we have 200 vendors, 200 vendors have an AI pitch right now, and my business loves each of them. How do I make sure that I'm able to get some kind of an oversight, whether it is from a prompt standpoint, whether it's from an outcome standpoint, is where I'm trying to create that governance layer across these tools. So
Yeah,
Thank you,
it's an interesting question. I mean, I think there's some of this that lands in the lanes of, the CIOs, the CTOs, the CISOs of the world, and some of it that doesn't, right? So, uh, the decisions for what an AI tool is permitted to do on behalf of a business or a business unit, I think is, the business's call, right? Is this allowed, is the AI allowed to write checks, to purchase inventory, to, analyze contracts, whatever, right? I mean, those are the decisions of the respective leaders and departments within an organization. Now, the the need for visibility, what AI exists in our organization, who's using AI in our organization, what type of AI is being used in the organization, and even the telemetry that would allow us to perform analytics, meaning like use case analysis and like risk analysis and things like that. I think that falls typically within the lanes of, the CIOs, the CTOs, and the CISOs of an organization. Um, uh, One critical dependency we have is on the vendors that are making AI and incorporating AI into their products, right? I mean, there's no ability to see what AI is doing if the features of like the um, telemetry is not made available, right? So and that's just one facet of uh, dependence that we have on the vendors that are selling and creating these products. It's an interesting time. It's not, like I said, it's not new, right? I mean, the same thing existed with cloud. Like there was at one point you can't see inside the cloud. Now we can kind of see inside the cloud. At one point we couldn't see on the mobile device. Now we can see on the mobile device. So AI is the same, right? And we're going to have businesses that take advantage of this need for us to have telemetry, enforcement points, control layers, documentation, things like that earlier, and that'll be great. And then we'll have ones that don't recognize the commercial need for those things until later. And, for them, it's probably not going to be so great.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Avnesh,
Yeah, what
any
I can add to that is historically, security leaders have been tasked to protect systems, data, access, right? Now, the question that you're asking, Naveen, is who governs behavior? Because that's what it's agentic behavior. It's not just about access systems and data. And it's not just about being security and control owners. It's how do these systems behave at scale? So I think, Michael, you had pointed earlier, the boards are today asking, not all, but majority, they're asking, are we using AI? That's the question, right? I think that question is going to change to, Naveen, the question you ask, who's accountable and why? So I think that shift is coming sooner and faster than we think. And I think there are, I would say, even on the business side, there are people who are starting to ask the right questions, but the percentage is pretty low compared to the broader sort of leadership, sort of sort of different functions that are there on the leadership side. So it's now, I think as I think through, if you go back and like the regulated environments I've worked in, like aerospace, for example, accountability has never been abstract. Someone always owns the outcome, even when systems are complex, right? And I think in this domain, we are still trying to figure that out. So I think that now we see companies hiring chief AI officers. There are companies hiring chief data and AI officers. Some are focused more around how do we use AI to monetize data and sort of improve productivity and or increase revenue. But I believe what's happening is behind the scenes, and this is going to happen faster than we think. I think AI is going to become institutional in infrastructure, right? And as we go around that journey, if it's that critical, then it needs to be governed like departments like finance and safety, for example. So for finance, we've had regulations going from Sarbanes-Oxley to Dodd-Frank. I think different countries and even states are coming up, everyone's coming up with their own AI Act, right? Um, at some point, there is going to be a lot of commonality in there. Some are ahead, some are not. But I think it'll need to be governed, like, for example, finance is governed a little bit more detailed level. So, for example, all CIOs know what a balance sheet is, they know what a cash flow statement is and P&L is, even though that's not their function, and all other executives too. I believe agentic AI is headed there too. While we don't see that level of maturity today, I think they will have to educate them and themselves and fast.
Okay. Thank you, Abnesh. So let me ask some of the new folks who are here. Ameya Worker. Ameya, I know you, any insights from your side? If you want to introduce yourself, I know you're on mute, or if you have any questions, if you want to ask, just.
Hi guys, this is the first time I'm attending this session, so thank you so much, Naveen, for inviting me here. My goal here is to learn from all of you guys. I am an interim CIO at a company called Bird Eye. This is a new role for me, and I'm learning what it takes to get to a CIO level. So this is a good opportunity for me to learn what's happening in the agentic space. Bird Eye as a product. Definitely, AI is part of pretty much every component of our product. Apart from that, the entire company is moving towards more agentic framework. So what policies we need to bring in place? All of you guys talked about like legal getting involved at Bird Eye as well. Now, legal is pretty much involved in every activity at the corporate level that we are doing now. They want to know what is this process going to do, what is it accessing, what data is getting shared, with whom it is getting shared, and pretty much every review that or every technology that we are using within the corporate is now going through a legal assessment. And a lot of it is happening because of the fact that not only these tools are using AI, but internally as well, we as engineers, we are leveraging LLMs, we are leveraging AI tools. So legal is very much involved. Apart from that, at the same time, right, even as a process, we are trying to understand what are the right things we should be doing. Is it the right thing to do? So this is a very evolving process for us, and thanks to all of you. Like I'm learning something what you guys are doing in your respective areas. So that will be a good way for me to get that knowledge and bring it at Bird Eye. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ameya. Appreciate it. So anyone, I know we have like you have Sajiv Prelis here. Sajiv, do you have any questions or insights from your side? If you'd like to share, that'll be great. And if you can introduce yourself also, right?
Sure. Sorry. Sajid Prelis, EVP of Technical Sales here. I've been in kind of the CISO roles before, and here to learn a little bit. So we advise clients on the governance side, what to do. AI is coming up more and more. So this is really, to see what happens in the real world. But agree with a lot of topics that were talked about. Everybody's looking at AI to be, increase efficiency by, X amount, right? And then, solve all our problems, do things faster that was done slowly. So they're looking at all the pluses. The data security side is looked at, but it's, somewhat of a wild, wild west out there. Some companies do it well, some, honestly don't. So it's interesting to see how others see this area. It's here. It's not coming anymore. It's here. And one of the other things some of our larger enterprises grapple with, the large banks, for instance, is not just AI. AI can be done well, can be excellent, can be disruptor in a bad way. Couple that with in a few years when quantum computing comes in, and then the computing power goes exponential. They're trying to do modeling to see what happens when that in a few years when that happens, right? When AI gets on steroids, if you will. Right now it's hampered with let's say computing power, things like that. But here in a little while, that's going to change. So what does that world look like? I know it's a little bit more in the future than here and today, but that may come quicker than anybody is thinking of. So anyway, good topic. Thanks for inviting me, and learned a lot from all the panelists. So thanks for the discussion.
Okay, so I think we have only about like 7 or 8 minutes. So let me just jump into. I know I had a lot of questions. Hopefully, we'll cover it in the next upcoming events. So what from here? So what I would like to go to the next part is what part of this whole agentic AI pipeline that worries you the most today? Is it the model, the data, or the actions it can take, or feedback loop? So anyone, whether Mike or Teza or Abnesh, whoever wants to take a lead on it first.
I think the potential for the greatest benefit and also the greatest harm is in the actions that can be taken. So when we think about, the model, the data, like the supply chain, all these things, that's pretty consistent with any technology, right? How is it built? What assurance do you have of your supply chain? AI is not so different in that respect, but the gains from AI used well and successfully, and the damage or the loss from AI gone wrong, I think are like the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. So for my money, that's where I think the biggest risk to organizations lies.
Okay. Teza, what do you think?
Yeah, so I would say, the way I look at it is 6 layers, right? Just like, when you talk about technology and you say 7 layers of, security. When I look at this, and we have a framework internally that we use, the first one being memory and context, right? Then we talk about access to the tool. The next comes agent to agent communication. And these three are probably the most critical risks because you can somehow not create enough boundary around that. And then the next tier of risks that we think about is things like data ingestion that you can control to a large extent, the model layer that makes things like prompt injection, etc., can happen at the model layer, and then finally a pretty significant one is the feedback loop, right? Because you're trying to create these eval frameworks of how these models should operate, so the feedback loop becomes extremely. It's a self-reinforcing framework. So unless you can like clearly say find out the errors, they tend to compound over a period of time. So we assess our models across these 6 parameters before we send this out. Yeah, so.
Yeah. Thank you, Teja. Abnesh, you have
Yeah, I'll just add to that and sort of highlight a different dimension. So what's happening, as we know, those of us who are in the Bay Area and in the whether in the security space or AI space, things are moving fast. Every 2 months, something new is happening. The rest of the world doesn't live in this bubble. So I think the disparity of even knowledge and information about what AI can do and how to govern it, I think that's going to sort of grow faster than before because how fast it's evolving. And in general, it's okay. But now I think if that disparity grows, where even the leadership teams who are making decisions for these companies who are not sort of in that sort of know, that could sort of help, that could actually hurt or help those organizations, right? So that's where I see a risk on the human side of it, not just in terms of how it's built, but also how it's used and how that information is ingested in terms of what AI can and can't do and how to govern it.
Okay, yes, thank you. Anyone in the audience? Tony, I see you. Thank you for joining. Do you have any insights or comments you'd like to make before since we are coming towards the last few minutes?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I mean, the conversations are very on point, very timely. I mean, we have this huge attack surface that's unlike anything else we've seen. The one thing I would add is obviously the comments around observability that Michael made very vivid. I think understanding our models, their context, they're all important. The thing that concerns me the most is that when these agents are doing work for us, right? At the point of accountability and responsibility, right? At the part of governance, we need to be able to tie in personalities or actually identities to these personalities. You know, if somebody uses an agent to monitor an agent to change firewall rules, somebody is responsible and somebody's accountable. You know, and ultimately there needs to be identities tied to that, right? So the NHI problem, you know, the season continues, right? We haven't solved it in the cloud. We think we solved it for the service accounts, but we really haven't solved it completely. And now we need to solve it immediately for these agents, right? They're going to represent us. And then bigger than that, you may test for these, you know, models and these agents individually, right? And you can do your red teamings and things like that, and things would be great. But what I'm afraid is that one safe agent plus another safe agent does not make a safe outcome. And this was proven at the recent events with ServiceNow, with the Body Snatcher, and with also Salesforce to some degree. They patched it, but it provided a great insight that these agent integrations is the combination of two components that could be safe together may not be exactly the outcome you want. When they start talking, somebody mentioned it earlier, right? When you start talking to 80 other agents, that's the part that I think is very important. And I think before we go way to the right and start jumping into agents, I think we should stop and move to the left before we have to do everything and do another shift left. We need to start thinking about, hey, how are we building these agents? Where is that flight simulator? Where is the NFAC wind tunnel as you're designing these agents, not just from security, but from safety, from, you know, explainability, from many other things, right? People are rushing to build agents, right? Work for a company, we make it super simple. We're democratizing that. We're a no-code agentic AI factory, and we put the guardrails. But even at that, I'm looking at the big picture, and I'm like, is this ServiceNow thing was a fluke, or is that just a glimpse into the future that's going to keep us awake, right? You know, this brings me back to the days of in the 90s, for those who remember, Ellen DeGeneres had a very interesting commercial. It said, have your people call my people, if you guys remember that. It was about an American Express commercial. And I think we're kind of getting there where you say, have your agent talk to my agents, and then we create business outcomes. And what I'm seeing and kind of where I think we want to go, those integrations, those interactions is what it worries me the most.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. There's any last words? We are already right on time. Anyone else would like to add to it from the audience? Parminder, Sharat, Rahul. or
Hey,
anyone?
good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Naveen, to bring this awesome audience and panelists. Loved hearing all of you, your insights you're bringing up. I think there's just a couple of things I would like to add, which have been already parts of it has been already discussed. I think it's leading us to an era where trust and quality of the AI is going to be the corner at this cornerstone that how do we ensure whatever LLM models or other kind of solution which you are putting together are safe, can be trusted, and also the ownership. I think Abnesh brought it up earlier as well. This is somewhat a gray area where in the previous eras you had full accountability. You could there is a implementation ownership, and then some kind of a governance and security that okay, these are the people responsible to ensure whatever has been implemented, it's as per the guardrails, the guidelines, compliance, and so on. But with the AI proliferations, it's all, I think, everywhere. It touches everybody. It further kind of causes all this. If you don't have the fundamental, foundational uh, data kind of, I would say at the data layer, classification of your data, your identity, human or non-human identity, uh, predefined, that causes a lot of risk. I think that's what I would summarize. But thank you again for putting this together and bringing this forum together. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Parminder. And anyone else? Otherwise, we're gonna call it a day. Matt, Hiram, Vinay.
I mean, I think what I'm observing is that the risk levels with AI are escalating. And so with that in mind, and what we were talking about earlier of like board members uploading slide decks, it sounds like we got to do better of what we know we should be doing. We should be training better. We need to be doing better in configuration to make sure that if we're going to have AI signing checks and improving things, that things have to be configured correctly from the beginning. We're gonna have to test and we're gonna have to manage change better. So it sounds like we're just gonna have to be better, even though a lot of things are going to become easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We got to
That I'll
be
add
on
to
top of
that.
things.
Yeah, some of the conversation we are involved in, there are two schools of thought, right? One is um, that AI, that governance slows innovation, and this is happening even at a country level. If we have too many guardrails and China does not, what happens? Do we slow down innovation, right? And this is happening at all levels. But I believe that sort of it's the opposite true. I think good governance is what will allow autonomy to scale safely.
Yeah. And to support that, like we have supply chain breakdowns, or we have accounts payable breakdowns where someone will send an invoice and get a check back for 40 grand when they did nothing for the organization. If people can figure out how to get agentic agents to send them checks, then that can be replicated at a huge scale very, very quickly. And that's going to come down to those owners, the risk owners, to make sure that those things aren't happening.
That will be the darling of a VC, fast growth company.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Matt. Anyone else wants to chime in? Mihir, how are you doing? You're on mute. We have a lot of security professionals here, I see. All right. So I don't know if last word, Teza, Mike, Abnesh, any, what do you call guidance or the or the wisdom for the future of this year to all the folks here.
It's only going to get crazier. That's what I would say before.
Yeah, I'll second that.
It's an exciting time for sure, but also a fun time. There's a lot of opportunity to do cool things, deliver impactful outcomes, and to learn new technology along the way.
Yep. And what I will say is, I think to sort of on my end to wrap up is, I think both the technology team and security teams, regardless of the internal sort of structures of how different companies work differently. I think the CISOs and the CIOs, they are going to be pulled upstream, along with legal and other sort of both in governance and leadership conversations earlier than it has happened. It has been happening so far. So I think it's imperative that both CIOs and CISOs sort of get on top of the not just compliance, but also sort of responsible governance as far as AI is concerned.
Thank you, Abnesh. James, do you have anything to say? And I just wanted to make sure I picked everyone's names. All right. All right. So thank you, everyone. So really appreciate having a very great conversation. I always learn a lot, and love to have you. And we'll have another one at the end of next month. So stay tuned for that. And again, Teza, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule of overseeing 3,000 plus people of company growing fast rate. Same thing, Mike and Abnesh and all of you. And good luck to everyone else who is in the world of chasing customers, including me.
Thanks, Naveen.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you again, everyone. All right. Bye-bye.